Welcome to this training material of the Erasmus Plus project EUthmappers, open and collaborative mapping for pupils-led projects in secondary schools through innovative teaching methodology and fostering STEAM education and environmental engagement. This training material has been prepared by faculty from the Institute for Educational Science from Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. This video will provide you with practical guidance to begin preparing pupil-led local mapping projects in a school. The aim of pupil-led local mapping projects proposed in EUthmappers project is to increase the interest of secondary schools pupils in STEM matters and to enhance their digital skills and their environmental and civic engagement, by introducing them to the use of open-source geospatial tools finalized at the development of open, collaborative, and inclusive mapping projects based on OpenStreetMap platform. The participation of teachers and pupils in this preparation phase is important to gain ownership of the challenges. First, we would like to share our methodological approach for the implementation of these challenges. We propose to incorporate them as part of challenge or project-based learning, so students will be learning curriculum content while answering a real-world question connected to their interests and creating any kind of product, like for example a report for the municipality, an exhibition of maps in the school, etc. We also want to express the natural connection of this proposal with the service learning approach. With this approach, the learnings that students make are at the same time useful for someone in their surrounding, so they are connected to them with a service purpose. For example, if a project is designed with connections to an elder center, the maps and analysis of the benches and shadows and fountains around the center can be of use for elder people going to that center to plan their morning walks. Or if it's a humanitarian project, students will be learning geography or science, and at the same time they will be producing useful data for NGOs working after a natural disaster or in conflict areas. Once we have introduced these short insights of our suggested methodological approach, we will go through the 3 steps to prepare the projects. Ideally, this process should happen before the academic year starts, so the teachers can plan in advance and in accordance with their subject's curricula, taking into account the requirements in terms of time and resources. In step 1, teacher teams will first diagnose their school contexts and opportunities, including teachers involved, subjects, school ongoing projects, strategic lines, coordination requirements, etc. In step 2, they will define and evaluate 2 or 3 possible challenges that will be presented to the pupils later. Finally, as part of step 3, we propose to involve pupils in selecting the school challenge through a participatory process. The results of this preparatory work seek to enhance coordination and participation of teachers and pupils. The school teachers who want to get involved in pupil-led projects will preferably work in groups. Different group dynamics can be used to try to compose a first overview of each school context. The table presents a guide to start reflecting on the school context. In each of the proposed topics, there are some guiding questions to help this diagnosis phase. You may choose the relevant questions in your specific context. First, it focuses on teachers' subjects and previous experience with project-based learning and with interdisciplinary projects. It also focuses on learnings from this experience. Then, some questions help reflecting on the school context, such as previous environmental actions and cooperation with other agents, such as families or local authorities. And finally, the neighborhood context is analyzed to get an insight of whether there are neighborhood associations to cooperate with, special needs, etc. A second table focuses on the opportunities that can be taken into account. There are some questions to reflect on the school and its broader context. A second group of questions are related to the interests. Then we suggest to think of who will be the target pupils and in case of an interdisciplinary project, if these pupils are the same for the teachers involved. Finally, we recommend to think on how could the project be inserted in the official curricula. This means that teachers should revise their subjects and look for common topics, opportunities for synchronization, etc. You might want to stop the video at this moment to be able to have a look at the proposed questions. School teams will work to predefine 3 possible challenges and assess their viability. These challenges will be presented to the students afterwards, so they can take part in the decision-making process to select the school challenge through a participatory process. The options are thus previously defined by the teachers, so a pre-feasibility study of the opportunities and resources is taken into account. The selected challenge will be further developed in a later stage. The first action in this step is to conduct a brainstorming to find 2, 3, or 4 big challenges and hypothetical contributions to them. Possible challenges will be named as Challenge 1, Challenge 2, and so on. This can be done as a pre-work by teachers or together with pupils. You can use a template like this one and fill it with sticky notes. Then you can use the table Challenges Aim Description to further describe the challenges chosen. The selection can be based on a checklist for the design of challenge-based learning courses. The framework is inspired by the one by Van den Beem for analyzing the variety of challenge-based learning characteristics within and between components in an academic curriculum. Questions have been defined based on the experience of the team in project-based learning and service learning to achieve an adequate selection of pupil-led projects by schools. Teachers may score the defined challenges, Challenge 1, Challenge 2, and etc., in a table like this one to obtain the 2 selected ones that will be discussed by students so that they choose one. In case students are already participating in this phase, they will all together come to the selection of a winning challenge. Let's see the table in detail. There are 3 categories to analyze: curricular, transformative action, and feasibility. Each category has a number of guiding items. The aim of the table is to score each item for the different challenges in a scale from 1 to 4, where 1 is very low and 4 is very high. Let's see one of the category's items to explain the process. For example, the curricular category. Imagine that our first challenge could be to map the number of trees and their shadow quality in the neighborhood parks to analyze potential climate shelters. We would start scoring the 4 items in the curricular category from 1 to 4. We would do the same for the rest of items in the other 2 categories and also other potential challenges. Then we would sum the scores, taking into account the weight column to multiply the scores. We will write down the results in the last row, and we will then have a challenges podium. Teachers will now define the basic elements for the top 2 challenges based on the previous table, following the scheme. The challenge, it can be helpful to formulate it as a driving question, target groups and other actors, subjects involved, final product or products, pupils, grouping and organization, curriculum content covered. The project can be extracurricular, however, integrating the project as a curricular interdisciplinary project is recommended. Competencies covered, tasks to be done, assessment planned, necessary resources such as materials and spaces, and finally, the diffusion and connections. Once we have completed steps 1 and 2, each school team will continue working on the challenges to prepare the required scenario for the next academic year or semester. The following items can be of help when preparing the school for the challenge. In case the students have not participated in previous steps, you can have sessions with them to choose one challenge from the 2 or 3 options pre-selected by the teachers. This can be useful because if they are completely free to choose any topic, it might be difficult to organize the curriculum or the assessment plan. This process can be organized taking into account the following steps. The first one is motivation towards the context, with an engagement question, a video, an activity. For example, the teacher could start by asking the students, think about the neighborhood or the school. How would you describe the environmental quality? Would you change anything? At this point, and so that the discussion does not extend beyond 5 minutes, collect the main ideas and tell them that there will be time to analyze the needs later. The second step would be a short video of students of similar age around the world working towards environment enhancement, so that you reinforce the idea that similar pupils are capable of diagnosing their surrounding needs and being critical. The third step would be brainstorming of context needs, in which in teams, students will write down on post-its the problems that need to be tackled in the neighborhood or at school. At this moment, it is important to motivate the students so as they can put all the ideas that they come up with on a paper. Be very insistent that the more ideas there are, the better. Once they have all the ideas written down, ask them to group the post-its into categories or clouds and then put them a title for each category. The next step would be to connect the pupils' categories with the challenges pre-designed by the teachers. Probably the categories will include the challenges pre-selected by the teachers. The next step would be challenges to deep understanding. It is important to get a deeper understanding of the challenges. A problem tree analysis could be useful to think of causes and effects, and also to reflect on the stakeholders to be potentially involved. An SWOT analysis or checklist could also be useful for scoring the different options. The next step would be the challenge selection, in which pupils will vote on the challenge they want to work on. And finally, the challenge connection with the SDGs. A video to introduce the SDGs can be useful, as well as a short work in teams to define connections of the challenge and SDGs. The second proposal is intended to further empower the group of teachers who will be involved in the challenges. It means to have more meetings if needed to analyze how the different subjects can be incorporated into the chosen challenge. You can use the 5 W's questions if they help to focus the work. The questions with the what contents of each subject with common topics, complementary topics, the when question with timetable or the planning, including time to meet and organize the tasks. It also may be necessary to ask the school head for a common hour per week to coordinate the actions. The where question, in the school, in the streets, in the parks, etc. The how question, to how to organize activities and resources. The why question, to define the purpose of the project. and the who question to establish a responsible coordinator. Here you will be able to read more information. All the technical aspects for using Open Geospatial tools in the challenges can be found in the EUthmappers Handbook in the first link, and more on challenge-based learning can be found in the second link. We hope that with these tips you can start introducing pupil-led local mapping projects in your school. In a following video, you will be able to get some insights on how to assess the development of the challenges.